Hey everybody, this is Harrison. I am the creator behind Save Your Sons and the Clients Through Social Incubator. And I'm here today with one of our greatest success stories, my friend Tyler, who we met what's it been now? It's been relatively recently, 4 or 5
hmm
months.
Yeah,
But
probably somewhere around there.
in that time, and we're to where we talk almost every day. And I've watched your transformation, which we'll talk about. This is what the purpose of this video, from a guy who was where I was too, which is posting all the time on social media, knowing that there's some kind of business there, but having some success, but not really cracking the code, to the guy now who has a clear path to, if you want to, this can be the thing. This can
hmm
be the thing that you do forever. So, Tyler, first, before we got some questions that we're going to dive into that are useful for other people who are considering going along this journey, joining us in Clients Through Social, whatever it is. But first, Tyler, you want to introduce yourself and just give a little bit of background on you?
Yeah, Harrison, super happy to be here with you today and to talk about my story a little bit. So, as you mentioned, my name's Tyler Graham. I'm a dad of six young kids, and I've been creating content specifically for dads for the past probably a little over 2 years. And during that time, probably beginning of last year, started to try to monetize the audience that I've grown primarily through LinkedIn and was really struggling and joined the incubator probably 3 4 months ago after I met you, and I'm excited to get to share more about the success that I've had there and kind of what that story has looked like, what that how the trajectory changed of what I was doing and how I was doing it once I started working with you and some of the other guys in the incubator.
Man, I'm so glad. I'm so glad to dive in. So t take us back, whatever, 3, 4, 5 months ago. But where were you at that point in time with your content and with the business ideas that you were running? And I really want to hear how it felt, because I think that's
Yeah.
what resonates with guys who are watching this, thinking about taking this journey. Because I've been there, you've been there,
Mhm.
and if we've been there, other guys watching this are there right now.
Yeah.
And tell them what was going through your mind as what were you doing and what were the results and how did it feel?
Yeah, so like I said, I'd been posting fatherhood specific content on LinkedIn for about 2 years now. And even the way that started, it almost started by accident. And I think that type of approach continued on up until I started working with you, where I wanted to take this work I was doing with dads. It was primarily focused on helping dads become more intentional and be more present with their kids, which I still believe is a powerful mission and vision for who I want to see dads become. But the problem was I didn't know what to do with that. I'd grown, I'll call it a modest following there about just until recently I hit 10,000 followers on LinkedIn. So not huge, but enough to have some say and had been recognized as, a pretty steady fatherhood voice in that space. And so I kind of went along with, I think, a lot of the things that you see on social media that make it sound like it's going to be really easy once you have a following to start to convert that into a business and to monetize it. And so I put together a fatherhood cohort working with a group of dads and taking them through what I call my 3 mile per hour fatherhood framework. And it was totally haphazard, man. Like I just kind of put this thing together thinking that it might work and it might be good. And it was just like so much of what I was doing was just like shooting from the hip, man. So you talk about how I felt. I felt very lost. I felt very insecure. I felt very unsure of what I was doing because I didn't have any real like footing. I just felt like I was trying to do what I saw other people doing, and I had a little bit of success with it. Like I'd filled up a couple cohorts. Part of that was because I'd asked you for advice and you had shared some of you were generous enough to share your offer framework with me earlier, and it shaped what I was doing. But man, it was really difficult. Like I felt like just the imposter syndrome of like, man, should I be doing this? Am I qualified to do this? Do I even know what I'm doing this or how I'm going to continue to do this? And so it almost continued to feel like I'd say that that phrase of like I just could never find my footing is probably the best way to say it, where I never felt like I was getting the traction that I wanted because I simply just didn't know what I was doing. The only other thing that I'll add there is that I think I sat on that feeling for a really long time, simply because I was afraid of failing. I struggle with that a lot by nature. And so there was just this fear that I had of trying to step out and do something new because I didn't know what would work and I didn't know what didn't. And I was afraid to do that in public where I might fail and people are going to see that. How are they going to perceive me? What is that going to mean for my future opportunities in creating a business if this thing falls flat on its face? And so that fear of failure held me back. I was moving slowly, much more slowly than I should have, because I wasn't sure what to do. Just didn't have my footing there. So that's how I would, put a year and a half of kind of figuring it out in a nutshell there.
Yeah, I remember it. I remember talking to you about it, and I remember I just saw myself the 2 years
Hmm.
or 3 years behind you, and feeling that just like, why isn't this working? It's like working for
Hmm.
everyone else. It seems like it is. It's not, but it feels like it
Yeah.
is. And what's the unlock? So what is the unlock? What was the unlock? If you were talking to somebody who's in that position where you were, what's the difference between where you were then and where you are now?
Yeah. So I'll thinking back to our one of our first interactions, and I was the cohort that I'd mentioned. I was trying to launch a new one, and signups were pretty much non-existent. I'd done it a few times before fairly successfully. This time it was struggling. And you had reached out and just asked me, "Hey, how's the offer going?" I told you it was a little disappointing and you'd sent me your offer framework. And I remember you really focusing in on what problem am I solving by working with dads. And there was this moment for me that clicked where I think I had this really like picturesque or maybe idyllic vision of what I wanted to do, helping dads be more intentional, be more present. And it was like, I'm just gonna run after that. Even if what I'm doing isn't working, that's what I want to do. That's how I want to help. And it clicked then and has sunk in more deeply now that I'm part of the incubator and I hear you share this message on a weekly basis, is that like the pain points that we're solving have to be precise. They have to be more specific if it's going to be something that we're going to create a business around. If my goal is simply to create uplifting and encouraging content for dads that helps them be present and intentional with their kids, that's great. I can do that and I still do that. It's still part of like who I want to be and how I want to show up. But that's never going to be a business for me. That's never going to be something that's I'm going to be able to monetize and kind of take it to the next level to help dads. And so, working with you and working within the incubator, that has been probably the most significant shift for me is honing in on what is the specific problem that I want to solve. And when you do that, man, it takes everything from feeling like just this huge cloud of stuff that's floating around that you're trying to think through all these different aspects of what does it mean to be a good dad to no, I'm going to hone in on this one specific aspect. It gives me a more clear and concise vision. And because of that, it helps me better understand what is the exact next thing I need to do to be successful, which I think we'll talk about this probably in a minute about what that looks like and why I think the incubator is like the number one answer to that. But having that clear, concise problem that you're trying to solve and a clear, concise vision about how you're going to solve it, man, it just takes so much of the guesswork out of it. Like, going back to my previous answer, like feeling like I don't have my footing, like I'm kind of floating, trying to figure out what to do. Man, having that clarified is like feet on solid ground, like exactly what you're doing now and exactly the steps that you need to take to move forward towards that endpoint that you want to hit.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Tyler keeps referencing the 6-part framework, which if you're interested in that, it's available for free in our school
Mm.
community, which the link is in the description. The community's free. The courses, all my resources are in there for free. I do one call a month with everybody in there where I answer all your questions. So it's totally insanely valuable. Oh, yours free. Just go get it. Go click, go get it. Go, 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 go. I'll get on my soapbox too, because what Tyler's talking about is something that a lot of people struggle with. It was something I struggled with, is when we have content, especially as dad, like the dad content, which a lot of guys in my world obviously are creating. But we think that just because people are engaging with this content, that it's inherently valuable enough to turn into a business. And what you discovered, what I discovered, what everyone eventually discovers if they wind up winning, is that just because somebody engages with your content does not mean that they are willing to invest in you or in
Mm.
whatever you do. I mean, think about it. Like what does it cost them to engage with our content? It costs them literally what, 10 seconds of their life to read it and maybe like a muscle movement of their thumb to press like. It costs them nothing. there is zero cost to them to like our content. Zero. And so if the offer that we're going to attach a cost to, $100, $500, $5,000, whatever the number is, if that cost is greater than 10 seconds, then the content doesn't cut it anymore. The content's no longer the investment that they're used to making in the content is just not the same as we're asking them to make. So it has to be something more. And lock for you, which I've seen it be for so many guys, is that it has to be something specific. If they can't measure what they're going, how their life is going to change and how their life is going to transform from paying you money, then they're never going to take you up on it. It's great for free content because it's inspiring. It makes them feel good. It makes them feel happy. It reminds them of how they should be acting with their kids. And that's worth a few seconds. It ain't worth $1,000, as we've seen so many guys try to do and fail over and over and over again. So thank you for that, Tyler. And working with guys in the incubator and one on one is seeing these light bulbs go off for guys is the great joy of my life, aside from playing with my kids and being with my wife. But seeing it click for guys is what keeps me going and what keeps me energized. And what a great click moment it was for you. So what would you tell someone who is in that point? Is there some advice, some kind of, if you could condense your learning curve even more, what would you say to somebody who's in the same place you were who wants to get to where you're at now?
Yeah. So I'm not just saying this because I'm on with you and we're talking about the incubator here, but I think that the finding somebody that's ahead of you, that's walked the path, that knows the steps, that knows the actions, that knows the feelings that you're experiencing, right? Like that is invaluable. Like I've heard it said that coaching turns decades into days, right? Like
Mhm.
you're no longer spinning your wheels trying to figure things out on your own by trial and error. There's still some of that, but when you have somebody, a coach or a mentor, somebody that's walked that path ahead of you and can help guide you, man, it is a game changer. And that was it for me, right? Like working with you, being part of the incubator, having even just the community effect of being surrounded by other dads who are doing what I want to be doing, seeing the wins come through daily in the Discord channel, it's like it's hard not to be inspired and motivated to keep building and to keep going. So not only do you know the actions to take, not only are you surrounded by people who are doing the same thing as you, but you have like a sounding board. You have people that's like a board of directors almost for your business that you're trying to start that you bounce ideas off of, right? Like my focus right now is a one-on-one offer to help dads steward their voice and stop yelling at their kids. And that came about by working with you, right? Like that was in our chat, like literally went from idea to launch to first sale in less than a week. It took me a year and a half to launch my first offer, and I felt like I was floundering the entire time. The second one, literally 6 days from we didn't even have the idea. We just knew we wanted to hone in on a more specific problem, found the problem, figured out an offer, launched it, first paid client, 6 days. Like that's incredible, especially like if y'all know who I am and know how much I am prone to drag my feet on stuff because I'm afraid of launching something new. The fact that that happened in 6 days is unreal and is fully attributed to my time in the incubator and my work with you as a coach and helping me figure out how to do this and how to do it well.
Yeah, I remember it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And to be like to because well, I want these calls, these case studies to include some numbers. So it was I think it was 6 days from idea to first paid client. And then you
hmm
wound up getting in the first, like we'll call it 10, 14 days, whatever.
hmm
You had, was it five, six guys pay?
Yeah, yeah. I've got five paid clients that I'm working with one on one with this offer. That I mean, it literally came from pretty much one post and one email to my email list using a lot of the advice that you had given me. And I mean, it's to the point where I could have had more. Like, but I'm right now I'm capping it at five just for my time and to pilot this thing and make sure we can deliver on the results. But
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's been amazing.
So several $1,000s generated out of seemingly thin air.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. That's what it is. It doesn't
hmm
have to take a year. It doesn't have to take
hmm
6 months. It can take a week if you
hmm
know the right things and you're doing the right things and you're getting the right feedback on what you're doing. And what a success story, man. So thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
No,
being with us.
dude, thank you, man. I tell you this all the time. Like, I can't thank you enough for just the generosity and the willingness that you have to share your wisdom and your insight. And that's like one of the things I'm going to keep plugging the incubator until I die, is that like there's so many guys in there who've been so successful, and their willingness to share what they've learned. Like this is a group of guys that want to see everybody win, right? It's not like every time somebody wins, it's taken away from the pie that we're all sharing. It's like it's just getting bigger. More people are winning. They're encouraging, they're inspiring. And I think the one last thing that I'll add here is that like not only I experiencing that win now with my current offer, but as we continue, as we talked about earlier, with that kind of future vision of where I want to go with this and how like the path to this growing to becoming something more substantial that I can do more, work with more dads, have more of an impact that I want to have in the world based on my kind of calling and what I want to see happen. Man, the path is clear, right? And it wasn't before. It was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know how this could ever be something more than this tiny little kind of thing that happens on the side sometimes whenever I feel motivated, to now, like this, I've got the path laid out before me. I just need to keep taking action. And if I ever hit a point where I'm either unmotivated or uncertain about what to do, like I join an incubator call, I throw that out there, and it's just like, boom, immediate next steps. I know exactly what to do and the action that I need to take. Like it's just, it's foolproof at this point. Like there's no way for me to not be successful doing this. I'm gonna fail along the way, certainly, as we all do. But even when that happens, there's going to be a place to come back to that's going to help me right the ship when it gets off course and figure out what the right next thing is, even if I stumble and mess up. And like I said, that's invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how you put it. I think I may have heard something similar to this, but it turns years into days.
Hmm.
And like really, I think that's what a good teacher, like I consider myself a teacher. I think
Hmm.
that's what we are. We're a classroom, we're an education community,
Yeah.
e-learning, whatever you want to call it. And good teachers get you the knowledge
Yeah.
more quickly.
Hmm.
And that's all it is. But you see the result. I mean, this is a 10x return on a couple months investment. Where are you
Yeah.
going to get that? And that's what makes me really proud. And that's what we do. It's like if you're going to learn physics, like you could go try to teach yourself and it would take you Lord knows how long, or you could get a teacher and
Mm.
they shorten the learning curve. Or people pay
Yeah.
$100,000 to go to college to learn something, and the stuff we teach is much more actionable, much more immediately valuable, and
Yeah.
it doesn't cost $100,000. So there you go. Well, thank you, Tyler. I appreciate you being
Yeah.
here, man. Anyone who's interested in joining Tyler inside the incubator, the link to that is below as well. You'll see the link to our free community too if you want to start there. It's a community where we're going to tell you more about the incubator, full
Yeah.
transparency, but there's also a ton of value there as well. And I hope to see everybody in there. And thank you again, Tyler, for joining us.
Yeah.
And appreciate you, dude.